Just before we start the episode, here's a trailer for another podcast. If you like what you hear, go and check it out.
Hi, welcome to the Jury Room, a true crime podcast. My name is Kevin, and I will be your host on this journey. We will be covering some of the most heinous, some of the most unthinkable, and some of the most monstrous crimes to ever be committed against humanity. We will be covering cannibalistic serial killers, decades-old unsolved mysteries, cold cases, missing person cases, and everything in between. The Jury Room podcast is available on most major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the Crime Divers podcast.
Hello and welcome to Crime Divers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And join us this week for the episode titled The Monster of Belgium.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
Hello.
Hope everybody's keeping well.
Yep, another week, another episode.
Another week, another episode.
Where in the world are we today then, Jill?
So today we are in Belgium.
Ooh, Belgium.
Yeah, so again, I'm going to have problems pronouncing things. I did.
Is this going to be our theme of week? So we're going here, but sorry, Jill.
Yeah. Well, if I apologise at the start of the episode, then it saves me doing it all the way through.
Well, this is
So,
true.
yeah, there was quite a lot of names that are quite hard.
Okay.
And there's quite a few men's names that are Michel.
Right.
So I think that must be the Belgian word for Michael.
Yeah.
But it's Michel.
Right.
So there's quite a few of them. Just
Okay.
warning, because I was like, another one. And I was going to say something else and I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
Never mind.
Fair enough. Well, will we dive in?
Yep, let's dive in. So,
Okay.
as Laura said, it's the Monster of Belgium. So, this case, in the true crime world, is probably quite a big case.
Right.
I've
probably not heard of it.
well, no, probably not. But in Belgium, it was a massive case in
Right.
Belgium.
Okay.
And it's actually really funny because when I first started researching this case, I had no idea what it was about until I saw one of the victims' names.
All right.
And I saw her name and I thought, I recognise her name.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked her up and I realised that I'd actually read her, she wrote a book.
Oh, right, okay.
And I'd read her book like years ago. So, but what I didn't realise, or what I don't remember, is more like, because, we know Jill's got a bad memory.
Yep.
That her story was part of a bigger story.
Ah, right. Okay,
So what I'll do to start off with is just tell you her story, which is just a little bit.
Right.
Because although there's obviously victims and everything, I don't really have that much information about the actual crimes, but it's more what happened after and during the investigation that's...
Right, okay. Oh, so it's not too gruesome today?
No, I mean, it's not very nice, but...
Okay.
Shall I just get on with it? Okay.
Yeah, you just get on with it.
Yeah, so I'll just start off. So her name, the girl that I was talking about, her name's Sabine Dardenne.
Sabine Dardenne.
Dardenne, yeah. So it was actually just Sabine. I just recognised the name Sabine. And
I don't know if
I read her book.
Fair enough.
So what happened to her? Well, she was born on the 28th of October 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 28th of May 1996, when she was 12, she was kidnapped when she was riding her bike to school.
Wait a minute.
You might know it. I might have told you about it. You might have remembered it.
Yeah, I don't know, kind of.
So she was kept in a basement cell that was 3 feet by 9 feet, and she was chained up to a bed by her neck.
Oh, that doesn't sound nice.
So the kidnapper, he would rape her regularly. He let her have a diary, and she would write a cross in each day that he raped her.
Right.
And one cross would mean that it hurt, and 2 crosses meant that it hurt really bad.
Right, okay.
Which is awful, isn't it?
Yeah, that is just awful, yeah.
So her kidnapper told her that he had demanded a ransom for her, but her parents wouldn't pay it. So she should be getting killed by other people.
Yeah.
But he was going to keep her safe by keeping her there. So he was like trying to act like
he was like the saviour.
Yeah, like a saviour basically. So the kidnapper he let Sabine write letters to her friends and family, and he said that he would post them, but he didn't. So that poor girl, she must have thought nobody cared about her because like nobody was paying the ransom, nobody was writing to her or coming to rescue her.
Basically, would have brainwashed her. Then.
Yeah. So a few weeks later, she said that she wanted a friend to visit her, and I think she must have like kept on and on at him because eventually he was like, right, just to shut her up, he went and kidnapped another girl to keep her company.
Alright, not even just to let her. Was it her friend though?
No,
just random.
Just yeah. But there again, he was trying to act like a saviour, like, okay, you've asked for a friend, so I'll bring you one.
Yeah.
But obviously, it was he obviously just went and found a random girl. So Letitia Delnez was 14, and she was just on her way home from the swimming pool on the 9th of August 1996, and he kidnapped her. So it was just an opportune, you know, he just obviously driving around looking for a girl, and that's
unlucky for her.
Yeah, he found Letitia.
She was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, so she was kept in the same basement cell as Sabine, and she was also chained to the bed. She was also repeatedly raped. So the abduction of Letitia was the kidnapper's undoing.
Right.
Because witnesses in Letitia's hometown had seen his van driving around and, you know, when he was obviously looking for a girl and thought it looked suspicious. And someone had the sense to write down the registration number.
Yeah, that's good.
So the police traced it to a man called Marc Dutroux. Well, I think it's Dutroux. I saw in one place it was Dutroux, another one, and then I've seen it being saying Dutroux. I think Dutroux sounds easier.
That one.
It's easy. It kind of rolls off the tongue better.
Well, certainly rolls off yours.
So they traced it to him. So he was arrested, and the two girls were rescued on the 15th of August 1996. So he had kept Sabine prisoner for 79 days and Letitia for 6 days. So, and then 2 days after he was arrested, he admitted to abducting and raping them both. So as I said, like, I read her story.
Yeah.
And...
Well, hers was, I mean, obviously Letitia, of course, she was bad enough, but...
I don't even remember Letitia. I mean, she must have written about Letitia in her book. But I don't actually remember. It just goes to show. All I can remember is that a girl called Sabine she was kidnapped, basically, and she got rescued.
Yeah.
So I didn't realise that this man was actually the monster of Belgium.
Right.
So Marc Dutroux. So he was born in Ixelles in Belgium on the 6th of November 1956. He's the oldest of 5 children born to Victor and Janine, who were both teachers. He spent the first years of his life in the Belgian Congo. So the Belgian Congo was a Belgian colony in Central Africa from 1908 until its independence in 1960. And then they moved back to Belgium because there was a whole big story that I didn't bother to research about.
Don't really know
about this independence and stuff. And I thought, that's got nothing to do with the story, so I'm not even...
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going into that. So apparently Dutroux was repeatedly beaten by his parents.
Right.
They divorced in 1971 and Dutroux left home. He became a drifter and a sex worker. Then he got married when he was 20 and they had 2 kids. He admitted that he beat his wife and he cheated on her. Lovely. They split up in the 1980s. One of the women that he had cheated with was called Michelle Martin.
Right.
So they later got married and had 3 kids together.
Right.
So I know I'm referring to him as his second name, like it's Marc Dutroux, and she's called Michelle Martin, but I'm just going to call her Michelle because if I say Martin, then I'm just going to confuse myself and think I'm talking about a man.
Yeah.
Right? So
good
just in case you wonder why one's getting referred to their surname and the other one's...
No, that's fine. I got you.
So in February 1986, Dutroux and his wife Michelle, they were both arrested for abducting and raping 5 young girls.
God's sake.
I know. Oh, that was like your last story.
I know. Like
abduction and raping.
I know. What is wrong with couples?
I have no idea. It's
just so wrong.
Yeah, it is. So, I don't have that much information about it. In April 1989, he was sentenced to 13 and a half years in prison, and Michelle got 5 years.
Right.
But they only served. Well, I'll tell you that I don't have his victims' full names and details, but I made a list of what I do have. So there was Sylvie D. She was 11. So this was like 1985, 1986. So he abducted and raped her. Maria, she was 19, abducted, raped. Catherine, 18, abducted, raped. Elizabeth was 15. He abducted and raped her, and he took videos and pictures of her. Axel D. She was abducted and raped, and because of his good behaviour, that's what I was just about to tell you before I told you the victims. He got out on parole in 1992 when he'd only served just over 3 years.
But what did he get? What was he
He
sentenced?
got, was it 13?
And he served 3 years. That's ridiculous. Like, what is the point? It still really rattles me. Like, why bother sentencing them to X amount of years when that's not really how much
And then taking a massive amount off.
I know, I mean, if he maybe served like 7 or 8, I might have been like, still annoyed.
Yeah.
But at least he served a fair whack of it. But to serve that amount, which I'm assuming clearly he's going to go on and re-offend, then you've got to say to these authorities, he shouldn't have been out. Because he's then, these poor victims that he's obviously then went on to, you know, might have been...
Might not have happened.
Oh, yeah. Justice system, honestly.
I knew you would get annoyed at
Gets
that.
on my wick.
You're going to get annoyed at this case, by the way.
Right.
Just thought I'd tell you that now.
What's new?
Well, so on the 24th of June 1995, Julie Lejeune and Melissa Rousseau, 2 8-year-old friends, were out for a walk in Grace Halone. That's the name of a place.
I gathered that.
Well, I just thought we were saying Grace because it's like a girl's name as well. So
what?
I don't know. I'm just telling you. Shut up.
Okay.
So Dutroux kidnapped him and took him to his house in Marcinelle. He kept him imprisoned in a dungeon that he created, repeatedly sexually abused them, and produced pornographic videos of the abuse.
So he didn't learn from the first time of doing it at the end of the day?
No, because he only got 3 years. He was in prison for 3 years for it. That's nothing. So he didn't learn. He wasn't punished, really,
Not
was
really,
he?
no.
And a couple of months later, in August 1995, Anne Marshall, who was 17, and Ifye Lambrex, who was 19, were on their first holiday without their parents. They had gone to West End on the Belgian coast with friends. On the 22nd of August, Anne and Ifye travelled up the coast to Ostend.
Seriously.
Stop laughing!
You should hear yourself out your stress.
Well, I don't know how to pronounce stuff. Just wait till you get a case like this. Okay. You're going to keep doing them in America and stuff like that, so it's easy to pronounce. So they went to see a show by a hypnotist. So after the show, they caught the last tram, but that only took them to the terminus at Ostend. So they decided to hitchhike back to West End, which is about 8 miles away. Unfortunately, they never arrived back at their accommodation. Dutroux had kidnapped them and took them to the house where Julie and Melissa, the 8-year-olds, were already being kept.
Yeah.
So as the little girls were already in the dungeon, Anne and Ifye were kept chained up in a bedroom.
Right.
So in September, Anne and Ifye were drugged and taken to a house in Jumet. I wish I had done this now. Where Dutroux and his accomplice Bernard Weinstein killed them by burying them alive. They were like wrapped in plastic and buried alive.
Oh my god, that's horrible. So it's basically like suffocated in the plastic and then...
Well, they were still alive when they were buried. But I didn't really get what the point in that was. I still don't, even though I've like obviously researched the case, I still don't know why they were
taken.
Well, yeah, because they didn't
do anything with them.
Yeah.
They just abducted them and killed them, basically. There was didn't keep them like prisoners or anything like that.
No, like obviously the little girls, Julie and Melissa, they were getting kept and you know, obviously they're imprisoned and they're being abused and stuff, but they're still alive, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what the point in the other girl doing that to the other girls was. Although, as we'll see later, Dutroux blames Weinstein for killing them.
Right. Okay.
I don't think he didn't want them to be killed.
Right.
Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So, Julie and Melissa, the 8-year-olds, they were still being kept in the dungeon. And the next thing that happened was that Weinstein, the accomplice that I just mentioned, and a man called Philippe Divers, they stole a van and hid it in a hangar.
Right.
So after it was found in the hangar by the owner, because it was obviously somebody else's hangar, so I don't know why they hid it there.
Yeah,
but this owner found it and obviously reported it to the police. So Dutroux and Weinstein suspected that Divers and his friend Pierre Rochow, just move on, had betrayed them. And on the night of the 4th of November, they wanted to interrogate them. So they lured them to Weinstein's house and drugged and separated them. Then they went to Rochow's house to search for clues about the van. I have no idea why there would be clues about the van in his house. I don't know.
Okay.
But Rochow's girlfriend was there, Benedict Jadot. And so they grabbed her and took...
Girlfriend called Benedict?
Benedict. It's got an E on the end, so I just like Benedict.
Oh, okay.
I just can't pronounce it
right,
properly.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got an E on the end, so it looks feminine.
Okay.
So they grabbed her and took her back to question her as well.
Yeah.
So then they left her there, so left the three of them there, and they went to get somebody else, I don't know who.
Right.
But while they were away, Benedict, I don't know her name, she managed to escape and she phoned the police.
Right.
So as Weinstein was already wanted by the police, Dutroux decided to kill him to prevent his capture.
Okay. Very random, but alright.
So, but later, I think I must get to later, which I'm just going to say it now anyway. But he said that he actually said that he killed him because he let the two girls die.
Oh right, okay.
I don't know. Anyway, I'll just carry on. Dutroux held Weinstein in the dungeon of his house in Marcinelle from the 13th to the 20th of November. During this time, he let Julie and Melissa have free reign of the house.
So they were just allowed to roam about as they pleased, but couldn't leave?
Yeah, well, he probably had all the doors and windows locked and they were probably too scared. They were 8.
Oh, yeah.
So
true.
he probably had them threatened and whatnot. So one day, after giving Weinstein food laced with rohypnol, Dutroux placed hose clamps around Weinstein's testicles and kept tightening them until he told him where his money was hidden. So he must have wanted his money before he died.
Right.
So then Dutroux killed Weinstein by burying him alive in a hole on his property in Sars-la-Bussière. So in December, having been recognised by Pierre Rochow, Dutroux was arrested. I don't know if it was to do with the van theft or for keeping them sort of prisoner, when he was questioning them and stuff. But anyway, he was jailed for 4 months. But what you have to remember is Julie and Melissa are still in his dungeon.
Oh, yeah. Right enough,
So Dutroux told his wife, Michelle, to feed the girls while he was in prison.
Right.
You're going to get annoyed at this.
Oh, God, what?
Michelle said that she was scared that the girls, quote, like wild animals, would come to attack me, end quote. So she said that she did visit the house once. She said that she heard the girls laughing, but she never saw them and she never talked to them.
Right.
She said that she thought her husband had left them enough food and water for them for 2 months, and she decided to take more for them because remember he's in prison for 4 months. So she crawled down the stairs backwards so that she'd be able to get back out again more quickly. Like if these girls came at her like wild animals, she wouldn't have to turn round. She would still be able to run back up.
Right. Okay.
And then she managed to open the 200-kilogram door of the cellar hole and slipped a few bottles of water and 2 bags of food into the dungeon.
Right.
Then she put the cement door back in front of the hole, blocked up a gap with plasterboard, and then she placed 2 sacks of coal against the barricade. But she obviously never went back because when the police found the girls' bodies over a year later, autopsies showed that they had starved to death.
Oh, God. But what happened to him after the 4 months, though? Did he not go back?
Yeah, and they were dead. So Dutroux had buried, because I was about to say, Dutroux had buried their bodies in the garden of his house near to where he buried Weinstein.
Right, okay.
So back to the arrest of Sabine and, not of Sabine, but Sabine and Letitia from kidnapping them. So Dutroux, Michelle, and an accomplice, Michel Lelivre, maybe that's a man, Michel.
Right, okay.
They were arrested on the 13th of August 1996. An initial search of Dutroux' house proved inconclusive, but 2 days later they confessed. So the same day, Dutroux led the police to the basement dungeon where Sabine and Letitia were being kept.
Right.
And the girls were rescued. So happy ending for those two, anyway.
Sure.
So the following day, a fourth suspect, Michelle Nahul, is detained. So that's two Michelles.
And a Michelle.
Two Michelles, one Michelle, and a Dutroux.
Jesus.
Oh, I know. See? I don't know why I did this case.
I was going to say, why did you do it to yourself?
I don't know.
Although, to be fair, it's quite interesting stuff.
Okay. So on the 17th of August, Dutroux led police to his house in Sars-la-Bussière, and he showed them where Julie, Melissa and Weinstein were buried, and the bodies were exhumed.
Mm-hmm.
On the 3rd of September, the remains of Anne and Ifke and Weinstein were located and exhumed. I've just said that I've got myself mixed up there. Because I've just said twice that about Weinstein being buried. Anyway, they got the remains of the 4 girls and Weinstein.
Yeah.
So on the 20th of October, 1996, 300,000 people did like a march in Brussels,
right,
in support of the victims' families and to protest against the authorities for the bungled investigation into the missing girls. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that I'm going to tell you all about it.
Yeah.
This was called the White March. The demonstrators wanted better protection for children and a better functioning justice system that could investigate the Dutroux case independently. So everyone was carrying something white, and some had their faces painted white. The reason for this is because I was thinking, why is it white? Like, is that racist or what? But it's not. Mm-hmm. The reason for this was because white meant symbolically as the colour of hope.
Oh, right, okay.
So the symbolism had grown after Queen Fabiola of Belgium wore white at the funeral of her husband.
Oh, right, okay.
So that's why it became a symbol of hope.
Symbol of hope,
yeah. So during the march, the fire brigade turned their hoses on the Federal Parliament building to symbolically cleanse it. I actually saw that in a documentary, so they were all like...
hosing it down?
Yeah, hosing it down. Oh. So... After Marc Dutroux was arrested, the Belgian public's anger was first mainly directed at him, obviously, because he was a criminal, he did those horrific things. Mm-hmm. But it quickly focused on the police, the Justice Department and the politicians as well. They blamed the police and government for botching the investigation into the earlier kidnappings and failing to arrest Dutroux earlier.
Yeah.
So this anger and mistrust increased when the investigating magistrate Jean-Marc Connerot, who had been... Oh, I can't type. Sorry, I'm because I've typed it wrong. I'm kind of... so this guy, Jean-Marc Connerot, he'd been collecting evidence against Dutroux. Mm-hmm. He was accused of bias and he was dismissed from the case.
Right.
On the 14th of October, people entered the streets carrying flags which said, "I'm ashamed to be Belgian." So... That's basically, I mean, that's all I had about the crime. So, like, the rest of this case is basically just the errors during the investigation and the fact that it could be a cover-up.
Yeah.
Okay?
But it's just pissed me off.
Oh, God. What?
Well, just the fact that, like, you got that pitiful, we got the 30 years and then all of that. I mean, I'm in agreement with that march.
Right, okay, so you're pissed off already and we haven't even got to the errors during the investigation yet. You're going to be...
Well, I mean, that's just, that's annoying enough.
Well, yeah, of course it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just telling you, I'm warning you that you're going to get even more pissed off.
Right, on you go.
So I've made a list of the errors during the investigation. Yeah, well, put it this way, I've got 23 pages and I'm on page 7.
Oh, okay. Better get started then.
Yeah, so, in 1995, Marc Dutroux' mum wrote a letter to the authorities saying that she knew that her son had kidnapped 2 girls and that he was keeping them at his house.
So if she knew?
Yeah, and she told them. They didn't investigate it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredibly...
Right. Next.
You're not letting me be annoyed about it, are you?
Well, there's so much other... This is really annoying, right?
Yeah.
So, and I actually can't understand how this happened, but when Julie and Melissa went missing, Dutroux was a prime suspect from the start, as he had obviously committed similar crimes before.
Yeah.
The police went to his house twice, on the 13th and on the 19th of December. And if you remember, he was in prison at this time because of the van thing.
Uh-huh.
So this is obviously at the time when the girls were by themselves, and being starved to death.
Uh-huh.
So the police had taken a locksmith with them to obviously to get in the house.
Yeah.
And the locksmith said that he heard screams of children coming from somewhere inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
The police officer, René Michaud, didn't find anything, so he decided to leave. And the locksmith said, quote, "I'm not leaving before we turn the place upside down. The screams are clearly coming from inside the house," end quote. And Michaud replied, quote, "Who is the police officer here, you or me?" End quote. And they left.
Oh, that's just giving me goosebumps.
Oh, wait till you hear about him later.
Oh, God.
You're just going to get really annoyed. So, I mean, like, the girls were well hidden.
Yeah.
On this documentary that I watched, Dutroux had actually filmed himself building, like, shelves in front of the entrance. So, I can't really describe it, but there were shelves in front of the entrance.
Right.
Anyway, so you would never think of, like, taking away those shelves and
seeing something, a door or something.
Yeah. So, but if you hear screams from somewhere in the house, surely you would tear that place apart.
Well, exactly. Or you would like phone some kind of backup to help you if you could.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I don't understand how that was dismissed.
No.
You know, and it wasn't
It
investigated.
could have been saved.
Exactly. So during no, this is annoying as well. I'm going to stop saying this is annoying because it's all annoying.
Yeah.
Right. So during the search of the house, several videotapes were found, but they weren't looked at.
Why?
Well, I'm going to tell you why. The excuse from the police was that they didn't have a video player.
Really? Really?
I don't know why they didn't have one, because surely you would have one, but can you not borrow one? Can you not buy one?
Well,
you're the police
well,
department.
how do they have to review CCTV? I mean, in those days it would have been like videotape and stuff, so surely
I don't think they had much CCTV back then, but still, I mean, you'd think they'd have a video player for this kind of thing. Like,
that's pathetic.
Yeah.
Alright.
So if they had looked at the tapes, as I said before, they would have found the dungeon with Julie and Melissa still alive because Dutroux had filmed himself putting the shelves up.
So you would have seen.
So they would have seen where the entrance was and how to get in
so
there.
So it was right there in front of them.
Yeah. So the police had the tapes since December 1995. And I've no idea why, but some of them were returned to Dutroux by that stupid police officer without being looked at.
Really?
That's
pathetic.
So they did try to recover some of the tapes, but later another Michelle Burley, the lead investigator, said that some of the tapes had disappeared and had apparently been stolen.
Oh, funny that.
Well, funnily enough, the ones that had been stolen were the ones that were given back to Dutroux. They had been stolen. So in 1999, some of the tapes were finally looked at, and one of them showed Dutroux raping a young woman in Slovakia. So that's that bit. Next. Error. In 1998, Dutroux was allowed to have a look at his case files. Don't know why. I don't know. That's my reaction, was like, eh?
Why would he be allowed to look at his case files?
So 2 police officers were with him, and when one of the officers went on a break, Dutroux managed to escape, but he was captured a few hours later. The Minister of Justice, the Minister of the Interior, and the police chief resigned as a result.
Wow.
In the year 2000, Dutroux received a 5-year sentence for threatening a police officer during his escape, and in 2002 he received another 5-year sentence for unrelated crimes. Next. Thousands of hairs were found in the cellar dungeon where Julie and Melissa were kept, but they weren't tested for DNA for a very long time. Like, I mean, surely they should have been tested.
Yeah, well, you would think. I mean, I know technology is as good as it is now, but they still did DNA tests back then, didn't they?
So, next. There was an inquiry into police officer debates. This police officer, anyway. There was an inquiry into his handling of the case.
Okay.
As it took up a lot of resources, and during the inquiry it wasn't possible for him to pass on information to the parliamentary inquiry of the case, crucial time was lost. There was accusations that language difficulties hindered the investigation. The testimony of the
Testimony?
Yeah, of Regina Loof was in Dutch. I'll tell you about Regina after, but there was obviously she was this can't talk. This girl gave a testimony, and it was
It's a testimony.
Yes, it was, and it was in Dutch.
Why?
Because she was Dutch. So, however, because that's obviously the language that she speaks. However, it was reviewed several times by new investigators who were primarily French speakers, and they had.
So we're in Belgium. She's given a testimony in Dutch,
and the investigators are French.
The investigators are French, right?
So they had difficulties in understanding her. Clearly. And this meant they changed the meaning of her testimony in a way that made her sound less credible. Now, why did they not get Dutch-speaking investigators, translators, like whatever? Like, why?
Yeah, that's pathetic. Again.
Yeah. Next. So, several sources said that Michel Nahul, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and Marc Dutroux were planning on a prostitution and trafficking operation between Slovakia and the Czech Republic and Western Europe.
Right.
There was plenty of evidence that led to connections to Slovakia and the Czech Republic, which included the videotape of him raping someone in Slovakia that I mentioned earlier. So 6 Belgian investigators visited the Czech Republic and Slovakia in August 1996, but they returned without any substantial evidence, so it's claimed that these leads weren't investigated properly.
Right, okay.
Right, so that's the errors.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to the accusations of a cover-up.
Okay.
So, I'll tell you what we think it is. So, many Belgian people believed that Dutroux was part of a paedophile network.
Right.
That included high-up people in Belgium. That my word, high-up people, because, you know.
Well, that's surely the only reason you would protect the body paedophile, isn't it?
Yeah. I meant that, like, they did tell you who they were, but I'm just like high-up because I couldn't be bothered.
Right, okay.
You know, because it was all like, well, high-up people. That's my way of explaining people that are high-up people.
Okay.
And you didn't get it, did you?
Yeah.
And that the other people involved were never prosecuted. So there was a matter, if you remember, I said that the Judge Jean-Marc Connerot, he got taken off the case.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently before his removal, he was about to publicly disclose the names of high-level government officials who had been recognised on the videotapes. He had said that Michel Nahul... I just could not say his name, right? And do you know what's really annoying me? Is when I was typing this up, every time I came across his name, I had to go to the name pronouncer thing on YouTube.
Yeah.
But obviously, I thought I'd written it down, like I thought, like how to pronounce, you know, and explained it to myself how to pronounce it. But obviously, I haven't, so I still don't know how to pronounce it. So he had said to this Jean-Marc Conner, the judge, had said that Michel Nahul was the brains behind the child kidnapping operation.
Okay.
So he was the brains behind it. Obviously, Marc Dutroux did it, but he was the brains behind it.
Right.
And Melissa Russo, Melissa's one of the 8-year-olds.
Yep.
Her dad said that after Judge Connerot was removed, there was no progress in the investigation.
Right.
He was removed from the case because he went to a fundraising dinner for the families of the victims. So the court system claimed it damaged his impartiality, which is ridiculous. Right. So next, it was part of, you know, obviously we're thinking about a cover-up because Dutroux is wealth, right? I mean, Dutroux owned 10 houses.
Really?
Yeah, for somebody who hasn't got like a proper job.
I was going to say, how is that possible?
It's not clear how he managed to buy 10 properties, but funnily enough, large sums of money in different currencies arrived in Michelle Martin's, his wife's, bank account around the times when girls were abducted.
All right.
She got money.
Right.
Funny that. The money was also transferred in foreign currencies from Morocco and Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So both the transfers and the value of the properties owned suggested to investigators that it was financed by a larger paedophile and prostitution ring.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So, next. Oh, hang on. Paul Marshall, so he was the father of Anne, you know, one of the 17-year-olds that got killed. So, he accused the police of a cover-up in 2001. He was angry because the trial hadn't started, even though Dutroux had already been under arrest for several years, because that was like 1996.
Oh, yeah.
He was arrested.
Yeah. So he'd been, what, 5 years?
Yeah. So he said that he felt like they just didn't want to know the truth.
Right, okay.
So he accused the police of a cover-up. Melissa Russo's parents, they weren't allowed to identify her body.
All right.
They were told by the authorities that Dutroux had identified her, and that was enough. The guy who raped her and kidnapped her and killed her identified her.
No, that's wrong. It's got to be a sort of family member, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly wouldn't let the killer.
That's just ridiculous.
That's just ridiculous.
And it tells you something if why are they not allowed to identify her.
Yeah.
So the autopsy of Melissa showed that she had been raped repeatedly over a prolonged period of time.
Uh-huh.
No DNA evidence had been taken from the body to make sure that it was only Dutroux that had raped her, even though Dutroux had always denied raping Melissa and Julie. So they're assuming that he did, but didn't bother to take DNA evidence to see if anybody else did.
Yeah, because somebody else might be involved.
So several family members of the victims, they ended up avoiding the trial, stating that it was a circus and there'd been no progress in the case since they'd taken Judge Corriero off it.
I would be
so
pissed off with that.
As I briefly mentioned before, there were thousands of hairs found in the cellar basement. Judge Longleur refused to have them tested for DNA evidence, even though the leading police investigator, Michel Bourlet, had begged to have them analysed in order to know whether more people than Dutroux were involved. The general prosecutor of the case, Anne Thilly, said she didn't believe that anyone else was involved, so didn't have the samples analysed simply because she didn't believe that anybody else was involved.
But that's not a reason not to get them done.
No. And then later, she's a lying bitch. So this Anne Thilly told a journalist, quote, "In any case, the hairs have all been analysed, all 5,000, and the results of this
analysis?
Yes. And the results of this analysis? Nothing. No evidence of any relevance in the Dutroux affair, which proves, of course, that Longleur was right all along." End quote. But apparently that wasn't true. That was just a preface lie.
Oh, right, okay.
In 2002, the hair still hadn't been analysed. So she's just a lying cow.
Yeah, don't like her.
But then this Anne Thilly again said that there had been DNA tests, but the results had came back inconclusive as the bodies were too decomposed. So that woman really needs to make up her mind.
Oh yeah, like what is it?
Yeah, so yeah.
But see, that's what happens when you lie about something. You can't keep
up with it, can you? So apparently 25 unknown DNA profiles were discovered. So there were people in that cellar, they just hadn't been caught. However, the prosecution never even tried to match those DNA profiles to people implicated in the case.
So do you think that's because of the high up people that might have been involved in it?
Yeah, this is all what reasons it's cover up, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the prosecutors also didn't follow up on evidence leading to a cult called Abrasax, which apparently performed human sacrifices.
Oh God, not another one. Don't tell me that they didn't.
No, I'm not going to tell you
about soap out of them.
No, they didn't eat them or anything.
No.
So in a house belonging to Weinstein, a letter was found from the occult sect called Abrasax, in which a gift for the high priestess, who was called Dominique Kindermans, was mentioned, consisting of 17 girls between the age of 2 and 20 for anal, oral and vaginal sex. Vaginal sex. Vaginal. I don't know how to say that.
I can say either way.
I think we know what I meant.
Yeah.
I don't need to keep repeating it.
No. You don't.
And it was signed by priest Anubis, who was later identified as Francis Desmet.
So she was gifted
girls.
Okay.
I don't really know much about that cult. It was just because the reason I'm mentioning this is because obviously the house belonged to Weinstein, and when the cult was investigated, there was policemen involved. So there was it was found that 4 policemen in Charleroi were members, and one of them was the treasurer.
Oh. So
the headquarters of the cult was raided in 1996 by 150 police officers, and on the news they showed police taking away bags of papers, videos, a fridge. I hate to think what was in the fridge.
Yeah, I'll just
Black magic, ritual implements, and human skulls. So, yeah, the only reason why I mentioned that was just basically because there was police involved in that.
Right.
And, like, obviously there was human sacrifices and skulls and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so next. In 1997, several police officers were taken off the case.
Mm-hmm.
So they were reportedly removed because they had manipulated evidence surrounding the testimony of Regina Live. Remember I told you I'd tell you about Regina?
Oh, yes. The Dutch one.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, you remembered.
Of course, the officers always denied. They denied that accusation. One officer was Rudy Hoskins. He believed Regina's testimony was true because it matched an unsolved murder case that she couldn't have known about unless she'd witnessed it.
Right, okay.
So what she had described was the murder of a 15-year-old Christine Van Hees. So I'll tell you what I read about Regina. She was known as Witness X1 and was one of the most prominent witnesses in the case around Marc Dutroux.
Mm-hmm.
So Regina said that she was sexually abused by family members since she was 4. Her gran and her mum prostituted her out.
Okay.
Her gran was the widow of the Chief Commissioner of Police.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently the gran ran 2 brothels during the Second World War. Sounds like a lovely person, doesn't she?
Just a delight, really.
So Regina said that her parents sold her to a man called Tony Van Den Boggart. Like, it's not even spelled like Boggart, but I looked it up and it's Boggart, like as in Harry Potter.
Oh.
Boggart.
Okay. Fair enough.
As a child. Yeah, she was sold as a child.
Uh-huh.
And he started taking her to sex parties when she was 11. Regina's gran and other acquaintances of the family confirmed that Regina and Tony were having a sexual relationship from when she was 12. Now, I didn't like the way that was worded. They're making it sound like it's normal for an adult and a child to be having a sexual relationship. So I would say he was raping her from the age of 12. So I just wanted to get that in there, that because that wasn't my words, but I wanted to kind of say that's not the way I would have said it.
No.
So there were lots of other children at these parties, and the abuse would be filmed for blackmailing purposes. Regina claimed that the parties also included sadism, torture, and murder. Regina said that Dutroux would attend these parties and give the girls drugs as well as rape them. Right. She also claimed that she met businessmen, politicians, police, and justice personnel at the parties. She named some other victims of the paedophile ring who were murdered. So there was Christine Van Hees, Katri M. de Cooper, and Karine Delart. The police confirmed that yes, these girls were murder victims, and their descriptions matched the autopsies. Right. So she must have seen it. Like, for her to know that, she must have. So she claimed that Michel Nahol every time was a regular at the parties, and apparently he rewarded his business partners with girls. How disgusting! And she said that other regulars were advocates from Brussels, a Flemish major, and a former Premier Minister.
Right.
So Regina said, quote, "It was highly organised, big business, blackmail. There was lots of money involved." End quote. So obviously this is what we think is being covered up because it's,
by people up in high places that think they're untouchable. What else?
Well, this is the bit that I said to you, you're going to be happy. Remember I told you about the police officer that didn't search properly for the girls?
Yes.
Rennie Michaud. Mm-hmm. Well, so, as I've said to you, I'll actually tell you what I said. Remember the police officer who just searched Dutroux's house with the locksmith? The one who could have rescued Julie and Melissa before they starved to death? Well, even though he failed in his duty as a police officer in what was one of the most important criminal cases in the history of Belgium, because I want to get my point across, he was promoted to the position of police commissioner.
Really? Doesn't deserve that by the sounds of it.
He should have got the sack.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So next, at least 7 police officers were arrested on suspicion of having ties to Dutroux. One of them was a detective believed to be an associate of Dutroux, and he was charged with truck theft, document forgery, and insurance fraud. So half of these police officers are corrupt as well. Mm-hmm. Next, Oh, that's me. You must spell wrong again. Judge Jean-Claude Van Espen.
I thought you were going to say Jean-Claude.
Do you know what? Actually, when I was typing that, I thought she's going to think I'm going to say Jean-Claude Van Damme. See, he was presiding over the Dutroux case. Quote, he was a friend of Michelle Nahal. He had once represented Nahal's wife as a lawyer, and his sister was the godmother of Nahal's daughter. So they were close family friends. But even though Nahal was involved in the case, the judge never resigned. Right. He wasn't removed either, even though the other judge had been removed for just attending a dinner. Uh-huh. And this Judge Van Espen, he had been the judge presiding over the murder case of Christine Van Hees from 1984, but he only resigned from that case in 1998 when Nahal was accused of being involved in the murder, and their friendship was revealed.
Sounds a bit dodgy to me.
Next. This is going on a bit, isn't it? Judge Jean-Marc Conneret, the one that was removed, he testified in the Dutroux case on the 4th of March 2004. He broke down in the witness box saying that there had been high-level murder plots to stop his investigation into the child sex mafia. He said he had to drive in bulletproof cars and had armed guards around him at all times as he was being threatened. The police told him that murder contracts had been taken out against the prosecutors in the case. Right. He said that organised crime methods were used to discredit his work and make sure that the investigation would end in judicial failure. Mm-hmm. And Connery criticised authorities for not rescuing Julie and Melissa, even though Dutroux had been a prime suspect for a year before their bodies had been found. Yeah. He also said that he had received files describing a paedophile ring. Mm-hmm. He had even written to King Albert II of Belgium in 1996, stating that his investigations into crime networks were being blocked because suspects received serious protection. So, it's obvious.
It does sound very obvious, yeah.
The Belgian senator commented on the case saying, quote, stupidity by the police can't be the only explanation. It's a question of stupidity, incompetence and corruption.
Absolutely.
Dutroux must be a friend of someone important, or else he was being protected because he was known to be a police informant. Mm-hmm. When he discovered that men paid a lot more for little girls for prostitution, he started kidnapping them, end quote. Mm-hmm. So there's been a lot of deaths of people relating to the case. Mm-hmm. So surely that means a cover-up. Yeah. So these people have been silenced for a reason.
Exactly.
So I listed them.
Okay.
So this first list, they are potential witnesses. Uh-huh. And they all died. So we've got Jean-Paul Taminow. He had rented a garage across from a hangar that Dutroux was using. He disappeared on the 2nd of April 1995 after telling a friend that he received important information about Dutroux. His foot was found in a river a year later, but the complete corpse has never been found. Right. Simon Poncelet, he was a policeman that was investigating the car smuggling ring around Dutroux. Mm-hmm. He died on the 21st of February 1996 and he was shot during a night shift in his office. Joseph Toussaint, Michelle Martin had confessed to him. He died on the 5th of March 1997, but that said it was a heart attack. Whether it was or not,
we don't know. Right.
Christian, because some of these might be.
Yeah.
So the majority of them are. Christian Conrads, he was a prisoner who was supposed to be questioned about his connections to Dutroux, but managed to escape and was found dead a month later on the 7th of March 1997. Jose Stepp, he was a well-connected person from Charleroi, said that he had important information on Dutroux. He died 2 days before testifying to the police on the 25th of April 1997. He dropped dead and Rohypnol was found in his asthma breathing device.
Sounds a bit dodgy to me.
Brigitte Genard. So he was was a friend and dentist of Michelle Nahal. She died on the 5th of April 1998 from suicide. Anna Conjevoda. She had contacted the police to tell him about connections of a porn ring around Dutroux to Eastern Europe. She was found on the 7th of April 1998. She had been beaten, choked and dumped in the river Meuse. A river.
Okay.
Gina Pardans. She was a social worker Supporting victims of a child pornography ring, she told friends that she saw a child pornography tape in which one girl was murdered and claimed she recognised one of the perpetrators as an acquaintance of Michelle Nihal. She died on the 15th of November 1998 after calling the police to tell them that she'd been threatened with death by a car accident in connection with her work, and she crashed into a bridge railing.
Right.
Sandra Clays, she was the ex-girlfriend of Michelle Livre. She had said that she had heard him and Dutroux talking about, quote, a way to make a lot of money, end quote. Her death was by suicide on the 4th of November 1999. Nadege Renard was an acquaintance of Dutroux before wanting to give a list of contacts surrounding Dutroux to the authorities. Died in April 2001 in a car crash. There's been a few car crashes.
Yeah.
Right, so they were potential witnesses. So the next list of people who have died who were related to the case.
Okay.
So we've got Alexander Gosselin. He was an 86-year-old who sold his house to Bernard Weinstein. Sorry. The remains of Anne and Ifke were found on the property. Mm-hmm. After selling the house to Weinstein, Alexander continued to live on the property in a wooden chalet. He told his son that he found Weinstein's behaviour strange. He died on the 4th of July 1995. Apparently it was a natural death after abdominal pain. Now, personally, it could be true. I mean, he was 86, so I don't know.
Yeah,
not sure about that one. Mm-hmm. Guy Goebbels, police officer who worked on the case from the start, he died on the 25th of August 1995 from suicide by a shot to the head. Bruno Tagliaferro, he was an acquaintance of Dutroux and a scrap dealer. People alleged that he was blackmailed and forced to commit crimes. Before his death, he told his wife that he was going to die because he knew too much. Mm-hmm. His wife told a witness that he got rid of a car that was used to kidnap 2 girls. Right. He died by poisoning on the 5th of November 1995.
Sounds suspicious.
Don't know who poisoned him. Fabienne Jopard, she was the widow of the guy that I've just talked about, Bruno. Mm-hmm. She had found some of her husband's documents and asked for police protection. She died on the 18th of December 1998. It says her death was suicide. But I was kind of a bit confused because it said that she was burned on a bed after the bedroom was filled with methanol and lit on fire. And I just thought, well, if you're going to kill yourself, would you do it like that? Would you lie in the bed and just light the room on fire?
Well, I don't know. I mean, unless you really want to die in a painful way, then I wouldn't have thought so.
So, yeah. Anyway, so she died.
Yeah.
Francois Reiskens, he was part of the drug and crime scene. He told his father that he wanted to talk to him about Melissa Russo, and that had been before the public knew about the kidnapping.
Right.
He died on the 26th of July 1995, which was the day he was supposed to testify concerning his knowledge about Melissa. Mm. He fell in front of a train.
All right, okay then. Don't believe that one.
Michel, another Michel Perrault. He was a nightclub owner familiar with the red light scene in Charleroi. He had contacted the families of Julie and Melissa 3 months after Dutroux's arrest. He died on the 5th of December 1996 and he was shot in a car park. Mm-hmm. Gerard Vaness, he was a police officer investigating the Dutroux case. He died on the 16th of November 1997, but I don't know the cause of death. Mm-hmm. Hubert Massa.
There's an awful lot of people here.
I know. I'm not going far to go. He was the senior... Well, I need to get across, the details of the case. Yeah. Because we think it's a cover-up. He was the senior public prosecutor on the Dutroux case. He died by suicide on the 30th of July 1999, which was just a month after he started working on the case. Okay. Gregory Antipine. He was a police officer investigating the Dutroux case. He died on the 15th of August 1999. It was suicide by hanging. Jean-Jacques Ferrand. He was a paedophile hunter, and he died on the 1st of March 2001 by a heart attack, so that could have been just what it was. Mm-hmm. Bernard Routmond, he was a film director who traded pornography tapes and accused of kidnapping a girl. On the way to the police, after he called in to testify Dutroux, he died in a car crash. Christophe Van Hex, he was a journalist investigating the Dutroux case, and he died in a car crash.
Jesus.
Pierre-Paul de Rijk, he was an acquaintance of Michelle Nihal, a bar owner and a pimp. He died on the 17th of May 2001 by suicide. Philippe Deleuze, he was a lawyer and acquaintance of Michelle Nihal, Hull, and he died on the 15th of November 2001. Don't know the cause of death. That's a hell of a lot of people to die.
Yeah, that is a lot of people.
So the trial started on the 1st of March 2004, which was 7.5 years after the arrests.
Right.
It was a trial by jury, and up to 450 people were called to testify. Dutroux was tried for the murders of Anne Marshall, Ifke Lambrechts, and Bernard Weinstein. He admitted the abductions but denied all 3 killings, even though he had earlier confessed to killing Weinstein. He was also charged with car theft, abduction, attempted murder, and attempted abduction, molestation, and 3 unrelated rapes of women from Slovakia. Michelle Martin, Michael Lelevre, and Michelle Lelevre and Michelle Nahal were all tried as accomplices. Throughout the trial, Dutroux insisted that he was part of a paedophile ring, with police officers, businessmen, doctors, and politicians being part of it as well. Mm-hmm. He said that Michelle Nahal was the one who was organising the abductions. He denied kidnapping, raping, and murdering Julia and Melissa, but he did admit to keeping them in one of his houses.
Right.
He admitted to burying Bernard Weinstein alive because he let the girls die. Mm-hmm. Dutroux admitted to raping Ifke and said that Weinstein raped Anne. He also admitted to raping them both. He also admitted to, I don't know. And I think I've missed something out, but I think he was admitting to kidnapping and raping Sabine and Letitia.
Right.
But he said he didn't hand them over in the Hull so that they wouldn't be killed. Dutroux's lawyer repeatedly said that the prosecution never followed up on evidence of a network surrounding Dutroux. We're on page 22.
Hey.
So on the 22nd of June 2004, Dutroux received the maximum sentence of life imprisonment. Michelle Martin got 30 years and Michelle Lelevre got 25 years. The jury was asked to go back into seclusion to decide whether or not Nahal was an accomplice. Nahal was acquitted of kidnapping and conspiracy charges. He was convicted on drug-related charges and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was released in 2006, so only served a couple of years, and he died on the 23rd of October 2019.
Okay.
Michelle Martin was paroled 16 years into her sentence, so that must have been this year, because the trial was in 2004.
Yeah.
So she was released into the care of a convent. She was given shelter under the condition that she didn't violate the conditions of her parole. The convent has since been sold, so she had to find somewhere else or go back to prison. So get this, a former judge created an apartment in his converted farmhouse, so that's where she lives now.
Aye, right
then. Michael Lelevre is still serving his sentence. Mm-hmm. Marc Dutroux is currently being held in solitary confinement in prison. Mm-hmm. In October 2019, he won the pre-parole right to a psychiatric assessment, which was supposed to take place in May 2020, but it was delayed due to COVID. Mm-hmm. And just as a wee after thing, more than 1/3 of Belgians with the name Dutroux changed their name between 1996 and 1998.
Oh, well, there you go.
And there you go. We're done.
Hey, wow.
That was a longer one than usual.
Jesus, that was hard to take. But a lot of information. But yeah, that sounds like a big, massive cover-up for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a cover-up.
Yeah, I agree on that.
And we'd like to know anybody's thoughts if they want to let us know.
Absolutely.
And I've meant to say as well in previous episodes, if anybody has any stories that they want to send in, if they know any crimes that have happened near them or that they've been involved in, they've witnessed, or even any spooky stories or anything like that, just
we're open to anything.
Yeah, it'd be nice, and we could read them out on the show. So if anybody wants to do that, and by doing that, you can get in contact with us by, we'll tell you social media first. So Instagram or Twitter, you can get us
crime_divers_pod.
You can join us on our Facebook page,
Crime Divers Podcast.
Or you could email us
crime_divers_pod @outlook.com.
You can subscribe to our YouTube,
which is Crime Divers Podcast.
Yeah, you're looking about unsure about that. Or you can subscribe to our Patreon, which early access to episodes, bonus episodes, you can chat to us, whatever you like, really.
Yeah. So now I'm now going to have to go and digest all that, because That was quite heavy.
Was that quite a tough one?
Yeah, that was quite heavy. That was quite a lot of information to take in.
So
I need to go and digest it now.
Okay.
But it was interesting, but a lot.
And if anybody would like to leave us a review, give us a 5-star rating, it would be much appreciated and it will help us get noticed.
Yay.
So thank you for listening, and I'm sorry if I've upset you like I obviously have with Laura, because, you know, she needs to go and digest. So
yes, I do.
I'm sorry if I've done that to anybody else, but we'll be back next week.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.